Most DMs consider the travelling in between key areas to be a slog that needs to be skipped over. But what if you make this one of the most memorable, deadly parts of the adventure? Imagine your players travelling through a storm only to hear goblin horns in the distance. Whether it's weather, resource management, or simply the eerie silence of the wilds. I'll break down how to run it, so your players feel the danger of every step that they take through the untamed wilderness of the Borderlands. Because I'm Chris, and I'm here to help you DM better, prep faster, and tell epic stories. We have to start this adventure somewhere, and there's probably an argument of actually starting in the keep to be given those first fetch quests. But since travel can be the hardest part that DMs struggle with, I wanted to prove that we have the resources to raise our games in this often overlooked area. You can show your players the map and then choose where to drop them. They'll see the keep and might barely notice that there's caves at the top. Now my suggestion would be to start bang in the middle of the trail. How did they get here? Well, you might be linking to a previous adventure, in which case you can use a portal, a fairy ring, a rip in the fabric of space-time, a deity. Look, there's all manner of ways for that. But if you're new, your characters can just be roaming, looking for adventure or coin or both. They are most likely level 1, but everything is scalable if they are higher leveled. You just use the story threads and dial up the threat. But it's your game and rules can be broken. Now the adventure wants long rests to only happen in the keep. Okay, so now we have motivation to get to the keep. They are tired and short rests are leaving them vulnerable. The wilderness breaks down into 4 sections. The trail, the woods, the fens and Tamarak stand. All of which have their own encounter scenes. And they're pretty damn flimsy. Now one way to level up is to visit all these different wild areas. And they might just saunter around and do it that way. Now the trail itself goes from the Caves of Chaos to the keep. So your players could walk to either first. That may mean you're better off watching this entire series before starting running it. Just so you get all the tips and suggestions in your head. I'm going to present the 4 trail encounters in order. But you have to remember that you don't just drop all 4 in a row on the way to the cave or the keep. This road will potentially be travelled several times, so maybe use one each time they newly use it. And use the random encounters tables at the back to flesh out the travel as you see fit. We'll take a look at those random encounters that I've embellished, and hopefully you'll get some new ideas from what I have to say. Outside of this trail is difficult terrain and halves movement because of the bush and plant life. What is the weather doing? I use a weather die, or simply look out my window at game time and say that's what the weather's doing. How are the PCs dealing with the temperature, if you want to lean into that? Looted wagon. A wagon with no horses stands idle on the trail up ahead. An inspection reveals it was ambushed and looted. A boot print can be found, and the heel must be monogrammed with the letter P. The wagon was carrying animal food, bales of hay, flour, all going to the keep. But they might find a coin purse cleverly tucked away. It has 12 gold pieces in it. Putting this wagon in a ditch with splinters of wood all over and drag marks might be one way to show and not tell that it was hit hard and fast. Consider adding a tightly wrapped bundle of 2 health potions, which the bandits might have overlooked as if thinking they were 2 cheap bottles of wine. The talkative traveller. Malin is a young traveller whose uncle Umbrusk runs the Drunken Dragon Tavern in the keep. She's inquisitive and will try and pull roleplay out of the characters. If they do good, she hands over a coin purse full with 10 gold. I have questions. Why doesn't she need the money? And how is she able to survive on her own wandering the wilds? I see Malin as a scout, secretly working for the bandits. And maybe Umbrusk has never heard of her. Or she's legitimate, and the coin purse is a test to see how greedy they are. Perhaps the coin purse was stolen, but has embroidery on the inside to prove whose it was. And if the players are found with it on them by the guards, they face trouble. Malin's survival skills seem magical to me. Is she a fae creature? Is she suffering from lycanthropy? Or is she the trick of an enchanted trinket? Whoever she is, she can be met several times, and even used to aid the party if they're in a bit of a fix, i.e. more combat power or heals. Or maybe she's actually a devil in disguise. Game trail. Up ahead is an elk which turns and goes off the road into the brambles. They hear a voice say, "Oh blast." Navigating these thorny bushes deals 1d4 piercing damage. And they'll find Haldrick in his secret hunting spot, overlooking a dozen elk grazing in a glade. Now Haldrick offers 5 gold pieces to not give away his hiding spot. He runs the Traveller's Tavern inside the keep down the trail. He asks them to come to the inn sometime to unwind. Haldrick could be a local gossip and give useful details. The players might not keep his secret, and so if they do go to town, then relationships are soured. What if it's not a hiding spot at all? And the actual secret is the glade itself, which is linked to the Feywild. And the meats that he serves are not actually what people think they are. Now you might just leave a poacher's trap nearby, a DC 10 perception check to find it. But if activated, it startles the elks into a stampeding herd, and Haldrick is not best pleased. The Bandit ambush. Prowl, with his fancy tunic and boots, comes out of the bushes in an attempt to rob the party. This encounter could be reused, starting with like a verbal warning, and each time getting progressively more threatening, until it becomes a massive murder scene. But Prowl snaps his fingers and more cronies come out of the woodland. Just have Prowl escape if you want to reuse him later. 4 bandits are the starting point. Bandits are only AC 12, health of about 11 on average. They have scimitars, +3 to attack for slashing damage, and similar for the light crossbow. Now maybe your party does get robbed. This is a good revenge story for later. But if they deal with the bandits, they might find a sack in the bushes. This has 20 gold pieces and a magic item from this table. This is a useful loot table for when a big scene needs a possible reward, but use sparingly, and even have the players pre-select an item they'd like to discover later on. Because no group likes to have items of great value and have to say, none of us can use that. So these random encounters, we've got Hobgoblins ambush. 3 hostile Hobgoblin warriors burst from the undergrowth, shields up and weapons drawn. Their leader snarls in broken common, "Hand over steel or blood." The Hobgoblins fight with brutal discipline, shouting orders and trying to flank their prey. A DC 13 perception check before combat notices the faint glint of their armour in the brush, giving the party a little bit of a chance. 2. Cornflower's picnic. The keep's friendly barn hand, Cornflower, waves from a grassy knoll with a basket of bread, cheese and cider. She's set up a blanket and invites the party over for a picnic. She's a gossip at heart. She shares stories that she's overheard about missing patrols, strange chanting in the hills, and who's been sneaking into whose room at the keep. She'll gift the party a loaf of bread for the road. 3. False soldiers. 4 bandits in mismatched armour block the path, holding up spears crudely painted with the keep's colours. They demand a 10 gold piece toll, insisting it's an official road tax. A DC 14 insight notices their poor discipline and sloppy uniforms. If refused or exposed, the bandits turn hostile, shouting, "They've figured us out!" 1 bandit carries a crumpled warrant with the poorly forged Castellan's signature as proof of a larger conspiracy. 4 guards in pursuit. A keep guard, panting and red-faced, charges down the hill in pursuit of a scrappy bandit. The guard shouts, "Stop him! Don't let him get away!" The bandit vaults over roots and rocks in a desperate bid to escape. If caught alive, the bandit might know about local ambush sites or a hidden stash. And if he escapes, the characters might lose the favour of the guards from the keep. 5. Cultists of Chaos. A lone cultist in ragged crimson robes steps into the road. He's ringing a small bell and preaching of the beautiful destruction to come. There are more cultists nearby talking about recruitment to the cult of chaos. If refused, they hiss and stagger on. If the characters get initiated, they get given a small bell each and told of an initiation rite to come. These cultists are kind of indifferent but will knuckle down and fight if necessary. The Nightly Duel. A cheerful knight in polished armour, plumes dancing in the wind, reins in their horse and bows deeply. Good travellers, I seek a test of skill. They issue a challenge to a non-lethal duel, drawing a blunted sword or padded lance. Win or lose, the knight laughs heartily and offers the characters a flask of wine, promising to vouch for their honour when they arrive at the keep. 7. Cavalry Drill. The thunder of hooves shakes the ground as Shannick, a stern officer from the keep, leads a cavalry unit in a training charge. The characters are directly in their path and must jump out the way with a DC 15 dex save or take 2d8 bludgeoning damage. Shannick reins in the horses, furious at the interruption, though a quick word of apology will calm the moment down. If handled well, Shannick will remember the characters later. 8. Travelling Curate. A wandering curate in modest robes approaches with a gentle smile, offering blessings to weary travellers. If the characters are wounded, the curate uses healing magic free of charge. Even if no healing is needed, he might share bread or water or a holy charm, a carved wooden symbol, worth 1 gold pieces for safe travels. A DC 13 Insight notices the curate carries personal grief, and they may open up if treated with kindness. And now, in an effort to over-deliver value to those who subscribe, and only to those who subscribe, you could pull quests from Up in the Hills section from One Shot Wonders, probably the best DM resource that I own. Hilltop Herd, for example, has them rounding up goats for a farmer and can be scaled easily. Use my discount code in the description to make your DM life so much easier. Kobold Press's Game Master's Guide has this Great Hills encounter table for levels 1 to 4 approximately. Link again in the description for Kobold Press. Pause if you need to read these closely. Or the Game Master's Book of Random Encounters has a great outdoor section which gives brilliantly thought out side quests that you can weave into your world whenever you need. If you are new, I know this can all be very overwhelming. It's okay to stick directly to each word in this box set as you're trying to learn the ropes. You'll always hear DMs talk about adding this, changing this, and when I started it was like, no, I'm doing exactly what's written and that's fine. Now I made this video for you. Yes, you, if you're just starting out. And also, I made a wilderness video from One Shot Wonders Volume 1. Volume 2 is on its way. It's called Don't Look Down. And it's a bridge with ooze monsters rusting the support beams that you can drop into any outside place. I mean, talk about over-delivering, guys. But if you want more from me, consider joining my membership to get extra videos here and there just for them. For the eagle-eyed, in my videos there's sometimes a link to a secret video that you can only watch by copying and pasting and putting in your web browser. Okay, let's do the woods now. Same deal, 4 encounters, random tables and my additions. The Hermit's Hut. The woods are massive. What's the weather doing? Are they hungry enough to eat, rest and chat? They discover a hut with smoke wafting from the chimney. Makes me wonder if you could also drop in this adventure from Dragon Delves in the woods. DM guide already available. Anyway, this is the home of a grumpy loner elf called Xanthi, who was banished from the keep for crimes that she was totally innocent of. The accusation being for using dark magic, and so now she doesn't trust strangers. Her attitude can be changed for the better, but at best it's indifferent. She warns of a spy called Jacko in the fens and say that he's dangerous. Outside this hut there might be carved wards or scraps of parchment with weird runes written on them. Maybe local hunters leave offerings outside her house to gain her blessings. She's probably an expert herbalist or alchemist who can cure and make potions if the ingredients are gathered. Clearing her name at the keep could win favour with her. Maybe they'll get her to share a ritual or a spell that she knows with the PC. She might say that the main keep's priest is a demon worshipper. Ivlis is actually the leader of the cult of chaos, who bring death to the lands and need to be stopped. A cult ritual. We have to have some cultists at some point. In this forest clearing, there's 4 hooded figures chanting around a statue whose etched runes start to glow if the ritual's not interrupted. As the sky darkens and the air turns thick, the statue splits with a crack and something laughs as it's released. Then the cultists leave hurriedly, job done. Robes of the cultists can be collected from the caves or taken from the corpses of these suckers, because these are the cult of chaos. You can dial up or dial down the numbers of people here, and there's the option to mix in zombies to show the darkness which they are trying to spread to the lands. Who is in this cult secretly who the players meet? And is it all for the greater good?
The greater good.
A cultist is AC 12, health of about 9, give him a weapon, +3, 3 slashing, +1 necrotic damage. Maybe have them drop an item which whispers bad things to one of the players. Do you need maps? I love my maps. I use Loki battle maps who send me things to review for 3 these days, I admit. Plus I have a discount for the map library box set which I now use also. There are physical and digital versions that you get to suit your needs for all different occasions. It's basically one box and you're done, you're set. And that's another Roll and Play Press product. You can get it via my discount link in the description. Now I'd use the forest map here, or maybe for the next encounter, this watering hole. Sacred Spring is a tranquil grove with a natural spring, bathed in sunlight or moonlight. That's important, as the cult of chaos have a magic item called the Chaos Bell, which can be destroyed by submerging it in this spring in the moonlight. But in the daytime, this serves as a place for getting temporary hit points through taking a drink of these magical waters. How about upon destroying the bell, the hit points goes from 5 to 10 if you drink the water once a day. Have wild flowers ring its edges, their petals shifting in an unseen breeze. The faint sounds of chiming echoes in the air. Animals instinctively approach the spring with reverence before nipping back off into the woods. Sparring sprites. The party watch as tiny winged sprites fire off little arrows at each other. One will tempt the party into a friendly sparring session. 0 HP means safely falling unconscious, but your party might just cast an area of effect spell and annihilate them all. But the sprites tempt the players with a reward of a magical item. This is one way to give the player that promised magic item, or just throw them some healing potions. Name the sprites and give them personalities. Thistleblade is serious about dueling etiquette. Dewdrop giggles constantly, fights recklessly. Mothwing is cautious and tactical, calling out strategies and moves mid-fight. Foxglove is very dramatic, pretends every blow is mortal and collapses in mock agony. Have the trees bend subtly, casting shadows that grant half cover to the sprites. Maybe each mist needle fire causes a patch of flowers to bloom on the floor. Or you could simply do a duel of riddles. Now the woods random encounters, Goblin in the Web. Goblin warrior dangles upside down in a massive spiderweb squealing for help. His crude spear is falling into the leaves below. If freed, he proves friendly and offers to fight alongside the party when 2 hostile giant spiders arrive. If the goblin survives, he insists on tagging along until his debt is settled, though his bumbling antics may get them in more danger. The spider's web can contain a little pouch of 15 silver pieces and a tarnished silver dagger. Blighted Grove. The party stumbles into a grove of rotting trees, the bark peeling, the leaves blackening, and roots slick with oozing sap. A DC 15 Arcana reveals the blight is from evil rituals. The characters may find crude cultist runes carved into places nearby. Your twist is swarms of poisonous spiders come out of these runes, disturbed by the party's presence. The commoners camp. 4 friendly commoners sit round a crackling fire, roasting rabbit and singing simple folk songs. They welcome the party over and invite them to take a long rest. But at midnight, one commoner vanishes, dragged into the woods by unseen claws. Bugbear lumberjacks. 2 bugbear warriors strain at a rusty log saw, trying to fell a towering oak. Their work has scarred the grove, leaving broken stumps and discarded axes. They talk about all the woods belonging to the Red Fang clan. They might have some smoked meats hidden and a little bit of coin, and a rough map to their camp. Ravenous owlbear. A hulking owlbear crashes through the underbrush, feathers matted and eyes bloodshot. It searches for prey and attacks on sight. A DC 13 nature will reveal that the owlbear is starving. Its usual hunting grounds were disturbed by the blight. Its nest nearby contains bones, broken weapons, and a potion of healing that only does half the healing points because it's cracked and leaked. Olera the trader. She crouches in the moss picking mushrooms and humming a traveller's song. She greets the characters warmly and offers to barter. She can also perhaps point them to Xanthi's hut. She can warn of men with painted faces seen prowling in the woods. That could be your bandits or your cultists. And one of the mushrooms she picks is extremely poisonous. And if traded, then the party might find this out later by accident. The majestic stag steps into a sunlit clearing, mist curling around its antlers like a crown. If approached peacefully, its head might dip down, and it can lead the characters to a sacred spring, but if threatened, it bolts away. Druids of the forest view this as a secret guardian, and harming it may make them vengeful against the harmer. Following the stag may take you to a forgotten shrine, or even a fae crossing. 8. Lightning storm. Dark clouds gather, crackling with power, and the lightning comes down, hits a tree. Each player does a DC 15 dex save, or you take 2d8 lightning damage. Maybe the tree catches fire, and it threatens to spread through the woods. You could pop in like a hooded figure being seen in the crack of lightning, but then he's gone afterwards. Right, next is the fens. This is basically a swampland, and the water is difficult terrain, halving movement. I think the mosquitoes and the stagnant water is enough to introduce some nasty ailments after a failed con save. Maybe sight rot or sewer plague, or simply a quicksand pit or a poisonous fog. The flock of Stirges. A dead giant rat is being sucked of blood by Stirges. They can be nasty if they all gang up on one player. But this fight concludes potentially with a Gnoll warrior, drawn to the scent of blood. Now these things might have a camp nearby, or comb the area in duos looking for food. Don't forget that you can take any monster really and just give it 10 HP. It's injured, it's sick, it's starving to death. And monsters can choose to run off, either in fear, desperation or boredom. A Gnoll warrior is AC 15, health of about 27, rend attack +4, 5 piercing, bone bow, +3 to attack, 6 piercing. They have a bonus action of a rampage. Lizard swamp. Ahead lie several low mounds which ride above the water level. For a moment a glint of gold catches the eye. The lizard folk bury offerings and trophies, concealing their sacred relics beneath layers of mud. 2 lizard folk wardens crouch low among the reeds. Now lizard folk can see anyone who is invisible. They will warn the party off first and hiss to leave this place. Trespass no further. If the players storm in wildly, have them roll initiative with disadvantage. In the mounds are 20 gold pieces and an emerald worth 100 gold. The spy's campsite. A secluded campsite is stumbled upon eventually, belonging to a shady halfling called Jacko. The module suggests seeing a glint of his sword in the reads, but I prefer if he just sneaks up on the party. He's meant to be quite good at his job. Have them all roll perception and the lowest one gets a knife to the neck. He'll offer to do a job for 25 gold pieces, no questions asked. He can be hired or they can meet him again at the keep or in some sort of regular disguise. He can be played for laughs. Maybe he's terribly clumsy or loud, or his shoes keep coming undone and he trips over them. Or he could be comically excellent, quicker than the eye. Just the threat of him being in the shadows is enough for people to do his bidding. The sword fens. This is just traversing through Razorvine, and a failed save after a failed save will basically slash at him over and over. And that little bit of d6 damage just becomes a real problem. Maybe the players sew extra padding onto their clothing to deal with it. You know, take further precautions down the line. So if you're doing heat, does the cold or the hot cause levels of exhaustion? Null tribute. 3 Null warriors scour the wetlands for loot. Their yellow eyes glint with hunger as they brandish their rusted spears and demand a piece of equipment or a magic item from the players. Mud gift for the boss. Put 2 goblin warriors taking mud from a lizard folk mound, trying to mould it into something like a crown. Maybe it's the Null's boss's birthday. They ask the characters to rate the crown out of 10. Maybe scoring highly will allow the goblins to do a favour. Otherwise, a goblin fight. Bog burped mephits. The bog burps up 2 steam mephits, which immediately begin to put on a performance. They puff out clouds of foul-smelling smoke that sound like squeaky horns or explosive farts, laughing at their own antics. They just want an audience. If the players are entertained, they might lead them to the lizard mounds. If ignored, they'll attack. The Kuatoa kidnappers. Got 2 Kuatoa marauders come croaking prayers out of the swamp. They might try to kidnap the characters, tying them to slimy cords, and take them back to a fetid shrine. They mumble about the mud father who will awaken, and they carry an idol made of driftwood and frog bones. The friendly wardens offer. A lizard folk warden approaches. Speaking in common, they offer to guide the party through the fens, in exchange for food or trinkets. Maybe the party get led to Jacko's place. Maybe the lizard folk are just testing the party and want them to gang up towards the gnolls. The mud-risen dead. Ahead perhaps is a body of a dead cultist, face down in the mud, and the body's hand is twitching. Anyway, it turns out to be a zombie. More corpses lie ahead, coming up on initiative 20. The bridge ambush. A rotting wooden bridge stretches across dark water. Beneath it have 2 grey oozes clinging to the underside. The bridge can collapse on a 1 to 3 on the roll of a d6, but maybe a skeleton can be found under the bridge with a rusted locket worth 15 gold pieces. And how about a flash flood? Have a sudden torrent swell into a horrible downpour. Each character does a DC 15 strength save to try and stop being swept away in the flood. Finally onto Tamarak's stand. This is the rolling hills section of the adventure. Pine trees and wildlife in abundance. So flash fire. As they reach the bottom of a gorge, they smell smoke. From a forest fire. I mean, this boils down to a couple of saving throws, resulting in 2d6 fire damage. But yes, environmental scenes are valid. Maybe wolves get forced their way by the fire, and it's discovered that the cultists started the fire on top of the hill. I think ogres are more prevalent in this area actually, especially in the random encounters section. But first, giant spider's nest. If you introduce a patchy fog first, then it makes more sense that somebody would stumble into a webbing between trees. It's a DC 12 deck save, or you're restrained, and yes, fire works well on webs. Anyway, you can become restrained by 2 giant spiders. It's a good enough scene. Maybe add a previous corpse holding a magic item in the webbing. Or just use something from that roll table we used earlier. Hobgoblin Patrol. Voices of arguing hobgoblins are heard at some distance. Place a pile of rocks so the PCs can sneak up and get a better listen. The debates are over whether to side with a bugbear or side with an ogre. both of which can be found in the caves to the north. These 3 hobgoblins have been in a battle and they're wounded. Each one has a different stance on the argument. This tension can be exploited. Now if a fight occurs, you can have one run off and then blow on a horn as if sending for backup, but none comes. Maybe one carries a sealed order hinting at a larger plan. Maybe they have a prisoner tied up that needs to be rescued. Pine seeds. Basically, this is just a case of surviving off the land. You litter the ground with red and green seeds, and the red ones are poisonous, the green ones are edible. The players don't know, they have to do checks to find out which is which. But it seems too obvious, like stop and go, so maybe swap them round and green's poisonous or red's good. Or change the colours completely, change the seeds to berries. All this is basically, can we poison a PC? They will remain poisoned until they'll take that long rest at the keep. So the random encounters for Tamarak stand. Malin's day hike. The characters meet Malin again. She cheerfully waves at them. She's on a daytime hike and maybe mentions that she's seen pine seeds here and there and some are dangerous. She might warn about strange shapes she's seen at dusk. She could offer them dried herbs which maybe cure their poison if you really want. But I like to think that Malin's being followed by a twisted spirit of some kind, which might reveal itself during this conversation. The Stirge and the zombie. The bloated corpse of an ogre zombie, shuffling mindlessly with a Stirge latched onto its shoulder. Maybe this zombie's wearing a shattered talisman of undeath, evidence of a cult nearby. The mimic wagon. You've got to have a mimic. So moss creeps over this abandoned wagon, and one of these sturdy crates is a mimic. But inside the mimic is perhaps a book, inside a rusted lockbox, describing the Caves of Chaos, or some element of it. The injured hiker. Well, yeah, it's a commoner stumbling with a bleeding leg. A character can use the help action to do a medicine check to fix them up. Success might earn them a gold coin. The hiker's pack jingles weirdly as if holding a lot of money, like they're a bandit. But if favour is won, maybe they know a shortcut which makes travel a bit quicker. The ogre scavenger. A hostile ogre kneels down in an abandoned campsite, smashing up pots and licking stew off the dirt. Now when it sees the characters it can charge at them. Maybe this camp was where ritualistic cult stuff was done, and perhaps there's a collapsed tent with a locked iron chest with 25 gold and a potion of climbing. The occult graveyard. A crooked tree juts from the earth, and its roots are tangled round like gravestones. 4 skeletons crawl their way out of the earth. The tree itself is whispering in abyssal. Anyone who understands it hears it say, "Feed it bones." A religion check of 14 identifies this place as an old burial ground, corrupted by necromancy. Cleansing it may earn favour of local druids. Prowl and Draal's bandit chorus. So this clearing rings with off-key singing. Prowl and 3 bandits drink and strum a stolen loot. If Prowl was already slain, put Draal in, his identical twin brother. Maybe the characters can show off their great musician skills, or skills of any sort. Then you've got a chance for the bandits to rob them again, or try, or just to fight. 8. Red Dragon Overflight. Yes, a red dragon wormling soars overhead. It does not attack or engage, it's just a scare. A nature check of 15 can find scorch marks here and there on the floor, showing the wormling is hunting this area. Maybe the dragon doesn't attack, but it startles some wolves, 1d4 wolves who come the party's way. I hope this helps, I'm just trying to help. If you need further DM inspiration, then look through my DM Forge playlist. And I will see you in the next video.